The sun dipped low over Lusaka, painting Cairo Road in hues of orange and gold. The city buzzed with its usual rhythm vendors calling out prices of fresh vegetables, minibuses honking impatiently, and young professionals weaving through the crowd with phones pressed to their ears. Among them was Chipo, a 32-year-old accountant, who had built a comfortable life for herself. She had worked tirelessly, balancing long hours at the office with caring for her younger siblings after their parents passed away. Her independence was her pride, though it often came with a quiet loneliness. That's when she met Kelvin. Kelvin was charming, with a smile that could light up a room and stories that made Chipo laugh. Until her sides hurt, he wasn't employed steadily. He called himself an entrepreneur, though his ventures never seemed to take off. He was always on the verge of a breakthrough, a big deal that was just around the corner. Still, he had a way of making Chipo feel seen, and after years of carrying the heavy weight of responsibility, she welcomed his warmth and attention. He was a breath of fresh air in her structured, predictable life. Their courtship felt like a whirlwind romance. He'd surprise her with flowers he'd picked from a public garden, write her poems on napkins, and tell her she was the most incredible woman he'd ever met. For the first time in a long time, Chipo felt cherished not for what she could provide, but for who she was. Then the small things started. At first, it was almost unnoticeable. Kelvin would forget his wallet when they went out to a nice restaurant, and Chipo, not wanting to make a scene, would simply smile and cover the bill. He'd ask for just a little help with transport money to get to a supposed business meeting, always promising to pay her back as soon as his deal closed. She brushed it off. After all, she earned a good salary, and what was a few kwacha between people who cared so deeply for each other? She saw it as supporting her partner's dreams, but soon the small things snowballed into bigger asks. The requests grew more frequent and more significant. Kelvin needed help with his rent because his landlord was being unreasonable. Then he needed help with a loan repayment from a previous failed venture, explaining that the interest was crippling him. He painted a picture of a man trying his best but constantly hit by bad luck. Each time Chipo hesitated, a small knot forming in her stomach, but his reassurances and promises of a shared future would win her over. She would send the money. The most ambitious request was for investment capital. Kelvin came to her one evening, his eyes wide with excitement, a detailed business plan sketched out on a piece of paper. It was a tech startup, he said, something that would revolutionize the local market. He just needed a substantial injection of cash to get it off the ground. He told her, "This isn't for me, Chipo. This is for us. Imagine our future." Chipo, caught up in his vision and wanting to believe in him, transferred a large sum from her savings. It felt like a gamble, but she told herself it was an investment in their shared life. The business, however, never materialized. The website he was building was always almost finished, and the meetings with potential partners were always postponed. The money simply vanished. Chipo found herself lying awake at night, staring at her ceiling, the glow of her phone showing another bank transfer notification. She was convincing herself it was all temporary, that once he got on his feet, everything would be different. Yet each time she gently brought up the topic of repayment, Kelvin would masterfully deflect. He'd shower her with affection, remind her of how much she meant to him, or spin grand new promises of a brighter future just over the horizon. Sometimes he'd even get defensive, making her feel guilty for questioning his efforts. Her friends, who had initially been happy for her, started to notice the change. "Chipo, you're carrying him," her sharp-witted colleague Miriam said one afternoon over Nishima and Relish at a local. "A partnership is about two people building together. He's not building with you, he's just draining your resources." Chipo defended him almost automatically. "He just needs time. Lusaka is tough. You know how hard it is to find a good job." "He's trying." But as she said the words, they tasted like ash in her mouth. Deep down, she felt the cracks forming in the foundation of their relationship, a foundation she was beginning to realize she had built all by herself. The breaking point came on a cool Tuesday evening. Chipo had just gotten home, exhausted from a long day of closing the quarter's accounts. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Kelvin, complete with his usual string of sweet talk emojis. He needed money again. This time it was to fix his car, which he claimed was essential for his business networking. The amount was significant. Chipo didn't reply. Instead, she sat down in her quiet, lonely apartment and opened her banking app. She scrolled back month after month. The numbers on the screen told a story she could no longer ignore. Thousands upon thousands of kwacha gone, sent to Kelvin with nothing to show for it, no business, no returns, not even a single repayment. She thought of her younger siblings, whose school fees she paid without fail. She thought of the sacrifices she had made, the dreams she had put on hold to ensure her family was secure. She thought of her own future, which now seemed so much further away. The warmth she had once felt for Kelvin was replaced by a cold, heavy feeling of being used. When Kelvin arrived later that evening, his trademark smile on his face, ready to charm his way to another cash transfer, he found a different Chipo. She wasn't angry or hysterical. She was calm, her voice steady and clear. She looked him straight in the eye and said, "Kelvin, I can't keep doing this. I've been looking at my finances and I realize I've supported you more than I've supported myself. This isn't a partnership. Love isn't about one person draining the other. It's about building together, and right now I'm the only one holding a hammer." Kelvin's smile faltered. The charm offensive began immediately. He tried to hold her, to whisper sweet nothings, to promise that this was the last time. But for the first time, Chipo saw right through the charisma to the desperate dependency that lay beneath. His words were hollow, a script he had perfected over time. That night she ended it. It wasn't easy. The silence in her apartment was deafening, and the Lusaka nights felt colder without his laughter. There were moments of doubt where loneliness crept in and made her wonder if she'd made a mistake. But with each passing day, Chipo rediscovered her own strength. She poured her energy back into her work, her family, and herself. She started saving again, not for someone else's fantasy, but for her own dreams. Slowly, the city's buzz felt energizing again, not overwhelming. The sunset over Cairo Road was a beautiful sight, not a melancholic reminder. Chipo realized that her worth was not measured by how much she could give to someone unwilling to stand on his own 2 feet. It was measured by her own integrity, her resilience, and her capacity to build a life on her own terms. She was a builder, and her most important project was herself. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. See you next time.